Horizon TV, the beacon for the nation. This program is suitable for general viewing.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Another beautiful evening that we meet here at Horizon TV. Thank you so much for choosing Horizon TV this day, the 28th of November 2024. Imagine this is the last Thursday in this month of November. What have you achieved so far? We are heading to 2025 inshallah soon. Anyways, this is live real talk, and standing in for Faisal Qasim, my name is Zamzam Ahmed. Today our topic of discussion revolves around what is happening around the country. The 16 days of activism. What do we really need to know about 16 days of activism? We know that the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence is an international campaign that aims to raise awareness about the prevalence of gender-based violence and to call for action to end it. And to talk about this topic of today, I am joined by Basra Ali, who is the manager as well as the program coordinator Women in Borderlands. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Assalamu wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
How are you? You're very much welcome. How are you doing today?
Alhamdulillah.
MashaAllah. Glad to have you. Are you ready for the interview? Wow. So today, basically, we are talking about the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. To start off, maybe, could you tell us what gender-based violence is all about?
Okay. Thank you very much, Mariam.
Zamzam.
And it's nice to meet you again. And
Pleasure.
yeah, I think my first show at Horizon TV was your show, your morning show, The Muslim Insight.
Yeah.
I'm really privileged to meet you again today. So 16 days of 16 days of activism against violence on women and children is a UN day, a number of UN days, about 16 days, and it's going to start. It takes about 16 days and it ends in 10th of December. And basically the day is just to look back at the Beijing Declaration, what we agreed as women on gender equality, and basically having a platform that everybody feels safe and have their own rights to be in their spaces. And for this year, the theme, I think, the theme is Unite to End Violence.
Yeah.
So basically what the outreach program and the activism program is talking about is basically for people to be aware, to be very creative in different spaces, and to just really talk about, for this year, from last year when we celebrated the 16 days to this year, what are the achievements that we have made, what are the setbacks that are there, and what can be done to improve what is going on. The 16 days of activism, 16 days of activism against violence on women and children is actually a unique strategy on its own, because previously when the world was developing into industrialization, you know what the children used to go through. They used to work in factories, they used to do all sorts of jobs, and then people used to die early because of lack of machines, because of heavy lifting. People used to be in the cold. There was not much innovation. But with upcoming of different innovation, both men and women have really been able to really be themselves and live longer and work in safe places and actually do the production in large numbers. For example, if somebody is in a factory where meat is being done, they do it in large numbers so that it's even exported, specialization has been created. And I think you're aware that these unions, it did not just start in Africa or in our country, it started somewhere else. Yeah. So countries that are developed, like the European countries, America, and different continents, were actually going through a lot of worse problems than what we are going through today, because we used to see young children work for long hours, young children not going to school, because they really need to fend for themselves. People dying at a very early age because of those heavy industrialization processes. But with all the new modernization and the revolutions that took place, and then the formation of the unions, for example, the labor unions, the different types of unions, and then the specialization in the different fields towards modernization, people became people relaxed, and they were able now to live quality lives, longer lives. You talk of people living up to 90s, 100, but before even reaching 20s, 30s was even a different thing altogether. So I think this day is actually to just look back and say this is where we have reached, this is the milestones we have done, and maybe in the next generations, in the next years, where do we want to go? Okay. And then specifically for women, it was even an issue to get women in political spaces, in economic spaces, because it was a survival kind of tactics. So, but with those revolutions that took place in America and other industrialized world, the same lessons were picked, and they were brought to during the colonization period in Africa. So we didn't have to go through the same process that those people went through, and we were not mandated actually to really actually feel what the other people who went through this kind of industrialization went through. So socialization and gender issues were really tackled, and then emancipation of women in political spaces, in industrial leadership, and all that. So for this particular day, the 16 days of activism against gender violence was specifically to also look at, apart from just the violence that we saw in workplaces, in open places, the other violence that were taking place were also very hidden. They were not types of violences that people could actually see, because once the doors are closed, we don't know what's coming out. So women were encouraged, and during the Beijing conference, a few of the issues that came out of the Beijing conference was the issue of gender equality. So if the men can be given spaces to air their views, to actually talk about their spaces and how they want to actually move to their to leadership and other spaces, women were also now coming out and saying gender equality must be there. Okay, from an Islamic perspective, maybe we'll come to that,
Okay, I'll ask that later. And you've talked about as time goes, we know that as time goes, things change. And like you have mentioned that during the older times, or during the previous times, people used to live little time. They don't have much time to live due to this violence that is happening. Probably, what has been the impact, or according to your assessment, how has this 16 days of activism impacted the community?
So thank you, Marian. So from Beijing in 2025, which is next year, we will be celebrating 30 years anniversary of the Beijing Declaration, and that was one of the biggest women declaration, where women were talking about gender issues, women and girl protection and violence. So the 16 days of gender-based, 16 days of activism against violence on women and children is actually a day which the UN looks at and says, these are the declarations that were done in Beijing, and these are the things that women agreed on. And maybe if you can look at some of those documents, you will find the resolutions that were brought in the document. So what we are saying is, as at now, where are we? What are the steps that we have taken? What are we lagging behind in doing? What are the other emerging issues that are coming out? So I think the main, the 16 days will be ending on 10th of December, and people have different ways of celebrating. There are people who do songs, there are people who do arts, like they draw in different exhibition points and places to show women carrying water, women carrying children, maybe doing all sweeping, carrying a child, carrying water and all that, so that you can just know the spaces where some of these women have come from and where they are. Some communities are actually in some of those spaces. So that said and done, there are others who do virtual. Others are doing seminars, others are doing conferences, others are meeting with friends for coffees and actually just having dialogues on their work and what they are doing, and maybe even just Like, for example, in this setup where you are, like in Horizon, maybe you can even just have your own conversation among your staff and say, okay, in this organization, what is it that we want to actually do differently? Maybe we are not reaching out to other women. We might be having a station, we might be having the facility, but maybe we are not reaching many other women. What can we do? So those kind of dialogues and conversations. But the most important during this 16 days is actually the outreach. It's actually the walks that people do. It's actually the getting out of women to just show solidarity with women who are going through different things. So it depends with what someone wants to pick as their theme and outreach way. So for many, what they have chosen is walks. Like people just go for different walks, or others go to galleries and they paint. Like they go to schools, or maybe when schools are closed like this, they go to where places where students are meeting, like for holiday vacations and stuff like that. And for some parents and maybe small community groups, which I've also seen, people are just actually just having conversations with their teenagers on their safety, their way of doing things, what they need to learn, careers they need to take, and just empowering those girls to give conversations, to speak out on what they want to do in terms of their careers, in terms of their maybe lifestyles. Like there's somebody who wants to go to school up to university, but they really do not want to actually do any career. They just want to be a good housewife and all that. So giving women the spaces and the dialogues that is needed to actually just discuss what is good for them.
Okay. Talking about those are the kind of, or rather the ways, the different ways that can be used in order to assist these girls maybe who are really facing violence. Probably there's something which I would like to ask, or rather for the betterment of our viewers, is the key forms of gender-based violence that the campaign, or rather the 16 days of activism, aims to address. What are these key forms of gender-based violence that we are talking about? Because you might find sometimes, because you are trying to give voice to those girls who don't have voices, and like mtu atasikia kama nimefika pahali jipige kifua, you see. So what are these forms of gender-based violence that we are talking about, so that we don't misunderstand?
Okay, so there is the physical, like somebody just comes and talks to you. Maybe you don't agree on something, or maybe you have sat on their space and it's in an office and they just want to sit exactly in that spot, and you don't agree on how best to settle that, and they hit you. So that's violence. It's physical violence. And then we have psychological violence, where somebody does not, you don't, sometimes even in most cases, people do not know that it is a violence that is given, or it's passed towards them, like for example, a silent, you get the different types of psychological abuse, like somebody can make a comment that is not directly to you, maybe to another friend, but actually they mean it is you. So when you feel about it, you don't know how to react, but you feel bad and all that, So there is the physical one, which is open. Actually somebody hits you, it's your husband, your co-worker, your staff, any other person around the maybe places where you do not agree, in open places, and they hit you. So that's physical. And in most cases nowadays, that physical is not a very, very, it happens in homesteads, in closed doors, but it is not very, it's not in the out, it's not in the outdoor spaces, because there are so many people who are aware. We have fathers, we have colleagues who are empowered, who go for seminars, and they know all these things, so they can actually spot an abuse very, very from a distance. But now there's the physical one. The physical one, it's those things I'm telling you. It's the, the casual nicknames, it's the casual words that are thrown towards you. Okay, that's verbal. Actually, we have three. It's that physical, verbal, and then now the psychological. The psychological is the one which is hidden. In most cases, you will not know, and that is what most women in their intimate relationships go through. So somebody takes a long time, and even when you are asked, why is it that you don't want to be in this relationship, you cannot even say that this is exactly what it is. But you have something inside you that says, surely I think this person has abused me. And other times women have to be gotten out of those situations, out of those environments. Either their caretakers or other people will just say, no, I think you're being abused. but the person will keep on sitting and staying in that house. So sometimes it takes other women, other village committees, other women groups to identify that this person is going through a physical, a psychological.
Okay, we might find that parents, is punishment a form of gender-based violence?
Which type of punishment?
Like, for example, when a parent sees his or her kid maybe bullying somebody else or maybe doing something wrong which needs to be punished. Or what kind of punishment should that kid be given?
Okay, now let's be specific about children, violation against children. Okay, violation against children, Mariam, I don't want to talk into details because today I was specifically talking about the women.
Yeah.
But for children, you know, we have a whole organization that stands for women in the UN, which is UNICEF, yeah?
Yeah.
And then we have sub-organizations like World Vision, different types of World Visions in different countries, and then we have child care. We have a number of child fund, a number of agencies that are very good in child programs. But maybe what I can just pick out is, you know, there are some people who think just bringing a child in this world is just a normal parental thing. They don't know it is not just about giving the kid food and a place to sleep. Parenthood entails a lot of other things. It entails being present. Yeah. So you see some families, somebody is working throughout, but the kid has no parental guidance. So sometimes the kid might have the father and the mother, but still the kid has things that they miss in life because
they don't feel
the kid has
present.
been brought up by somebody else. And Islamically, because now we are in an Islamic setup, you know, our religion also talks specifically about that. And that is why for a Muslim woman, you can make an option of either coming to work, and if you work, even that money is yours. But there's somebody who is supposed to take care of that household. So if a man or the person who is supposed to be responsible in that household overlooks, they don't actually take the responsibility the way it's supposed to be, then it means the wife has to leave to go and do the other part. If she's forced to do that, yeah, then it means those kids will not actually get the parental guidance that the Islamic setting, the Islamic setup is talking about. So for these specific viewers of ours in Horizon, I think it depends for a family to make a decision. It's not a no-no, but if we can avoid leaving the kids when there is no much emergency, like actually we can have a father who is fully responsible and can take care of his family, then the mothers can take the responsibility of bringing up their young ones until a certain age. And I think in other countries they have that kind of a provision where you can even lactate in the office, you have spaces where women can go and breastfeed. So you don't just have to do 3 months and then come back. So those are the issues that women are struggling with, and different forums are doing research in those areas and actually coming up with vibrant, emerging recommendations on how to go about it.
At least
so
even
apart from that, there is also the economic type of violence. For example, somebody might not beat you, somebody might not abuse you physically, they might not verbally abuse you, they might not say anything on social media, because social media has become another, and actually I am a very strong agitator of negative social media. So when social media is used strongly, it affects both the genders, but more so the female gender, because when a woman's body or parts is being put in the social media, it has more impact than when it is a man. You get the point? So what we are saying also, social media is a form of, can be a form of violence. So if I want to put something on Mariam as an image, God forbid, I can use that to bring it to social, which is really unfortunate, because I'm actually thinking of doing a paper on social media and its impact on.
Because so many people are using social media.
Yes, there are so many women who are getting out of their limelight completely because of fear of what the social media is doing. So it's a very strong form of violence, and women have to really come up with a lot of emerging issues to deal with this. From a religious perspective, because we are in Horizon, I think it is also time that our religious leaders and our mentors in different aspects of religion actually talk about responsible social media for both genders, and more so for children. You just see somebody coming out and they're saying a child has been lost. you don't know that child. So there should be a way of even communicating. If a child is lost or something has happened or there is violence against a woman, how can it be communicated in social media without actually?
I want us to take a short break, and we will be back with more on this, because I know we said we are talking about the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence, but it's not harm to talk about violence against children. And to you, my viewers, I think this is a topic to be understood. It's a topic that really needs us to know. Why do we really need to know about the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence? Why should we participate? How important are we in this part of this campaign? We'll take a short break, but we'll be back with more. Stay tuned.
Horizon TV, the beacon for the nation.
Are you looking to stay informed about the amazing stories within the Muslim community? Do you want to hear inspiring stories and insightful discussions about faith, culture, and current events? Tune in to the Muslim Insight, your weekly news updates where we tell you stories that matter to you. The Muslim Insight, informing, inspiring, every Friday from 8 a.m. with me, Zamzam Ahmed.
Quote of the day. Imam Malik bin Anas said, "I am but a man. I make mistakes sometimes, and I am correct sometimes. So examine my opinions and accept anything that agrees with the book and sunnah, and leave anything that does not agree with the book and sunnah."
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا إذا نودي للصلاة من يوم الجمعة فاسعوا إلى ذكر الله وذروا البيع ذلكم خير لكم إن كنتم تعلمون.
Enyi mlioamini, munapoitwa kuhudhuria swala ya Ijumaa, fanyeni haraka kuikimbilia, muache biashara zenu, hilo ni bora ikiwa mwelewa.
Isikilizeni kwa umakinifu khutba ya Ijumaa
ili uzidi kujenga imani yako na kupata faida nyingi ya siku hii.
Coming to you every Friday from Jamia Mosque, Nairobi.
Live on Horizon TV.
Horizon TV, the beacon for the nation.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back for the second part of the show, the live real talk show. And our topic of discussion revolves around 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. What is this 16 days of activism against gender-based violence? That is what we are talking about right now. And in studio, I am joined by Basra Ali, who is the coordinator of Women in Borderlands, program coordinator of Women in Borderlands. Karibu sana.
Asante
We were
sana.
talking about 16 days of activism against gender-based violence, and we know that this campaign is celebrated globally. How is it different? How is Kenya really celebrating this campaign compared to it globally?
Thank you very much, Zamzam. I think we were discussing about generally the UN day of the UN days of the 16-day gender, 16 days of violence against women and children, which is now the theme for this year, being the Unite against violence. So different organizations are coming together, even in Kenya, just the same way it is being celebrated in other parts of the world. And you know, we are even privileged to have the UN complex around here. So I think in Nairobi there will be a lot of conversations, there will be a lot of dialogue, there will be a lot of learning and sharing, there will be a lot of virtual discussions, webinars and conferences, and it's actually taking place. And different partners are funding different activities. There are those partners who are really interested in areas in the assaults, like where there is the dry lands. You understand the assaults, yeah? There are those ones who fund specific program for women to come together, maybe for 5 days, 3 days, and discuss. There are those ones who are interested in cities, specifically in slums, like in Korogosho, in Kibra, in
the slums.
All the major slums around Nairobi. So there are specific donors who are really, they don't do anything else apart from funding those specific areas. So I'm sure they will definitely do activities around there. And the outreach programs of different walks, maybe people will organize themselves in their thematic areas. There are those ones who are working specifically with children. There are those ones who are working specifically with teenage girls. There are those ones which are working with women and the elderly, the aged. And then there are those ones who are working with energetic women who can really, you know, put the music, do the trumpets, walk around and just do an outreach program where they are joined by different people, their husbands, their brothers and other people, anybody else who is interested in this complex. So in relation to how is the 16 days affecting us in Kenya, I think you are well aware because you work in a media house, and Horizon is not an exception. You've been seeing what has been on the media, even though we have not really gotten the specific research, quantitative outlines of what are the percentages of women who have been affected, the total number of women, because that's something that the security officers are working on. But of course there is something that is amiss, because you remember even the president talked about it. FIDA and other partners have also organized a number of forums which we have attended this year. And I think there is a problem, and there is no better day to talk about this problem than today, because as a community, I think as a country, Kenya has been really a country of, you know, respect for the mother. So if you go to any community, the first thing people will ask you, like even when you are an NGO and you visit an area, the first thing that they will teach you is what they say, the name for the mother in their vernacular language. So there's been a space for women in this country, but I think there's something that is changing, which I think basically is as a result of maybe us opening our borders to all kinds of people without a lot of scrutiny. We are really a market country because we believe in buying and selling and actually doing a lot of products, but I think it's time we also come in and look at our values and our morals and actually get partners and people from other areas who subscribe to our values. Because if you don't have, there's a moral decay in a society where you find people can just do things and get away with it, and I think with the onset of COVID, there've been a lot of this mushrooming of this of the hotels residences, like these B&Bs and all that, which does not come into through a lot of regulation of the government, which I think the government is really now on top of it. But even if we do all sorts of regulations, you know, if we don't teach and have morals in our own society, because I remember when we used to be in the universities, people would go into University Students Association, you will date and marry from the same people who are there. Sometimes outsiders would come into the university and you get, you know, somebody picking you as a group from the university. You end up marrying and making a family and a good family for that particular. But I don't know what is happening right now, because even people will get scared of even actually looking for partners and dating, because we and you are not in the era where our parents were actually going to marry from our own cousins. Like, you know, like my grandmother married her own cousin, my mother married her own cousin, some of my sisters, you know. But I'm sure majority of my friends and other people that we have talked with and we have researched through were doing that. You are married to the person your neighbor, your close. But now with this generation and the coming generation of actually the Gen Z,
even your neighbor,
it's even worse, because they don't even know each other. Actually, they even do just a school trip and people meet and they marry and they settle and they have kids. So what we are saying, if we really do not take control of such kind of scary information that we are getting on our online, does it mean that people will now get extremely even more closed? Because when you see what is going around you, you'll definitely close. So what we are saying is, for Kenya, if the statistics that we are getting, right? If the statistics that we are getting is actually what it is, then our security officers and our whole society has a lot of work to do. I come from a school of theory where I believe in a holistic approach. I don't believe that the number of officers that we have and the security agents that we have is enough for every Kenyan. I don't believe in that. So I believe in a holistic approach, and in my community work, in the NGO work that I have done for the last 10, 15, 20 years, 15 years, actually we have advocated for more involvement of community. If there is an issue, we want to sensitize the community, do an outreach program, and actually, what is it called? Have conversations in the smallest units of those communities, in the women groups, in the men elders setup, in the security teams of the village, what are they called? The Nyumba Kumis, so that we have a holistic approach to this issue. Because if we say that our security officers will run from one point to another to arrest people, we will definitely not get there. So I think we will get into a point after these 16 days. I hope that we will do it so well as a community organization, as NGOs, as government. I hope we will do it so well that if somebody does anything that has an aspect of gender-based violence, actually even before the victim brings out the issue, we will definitely have the community coming in. Because you see, when we make this the work of feeder and we make it the work of crew, like for example, and Nairobi Women Hospital, and say, come, tell us which girl was taken, what was the issue, what, you know, we cannot actually handle that kind of a thing. So as a country, I think we need to really put down our foot and get back to the social setup that we were doing. I think it's long since we have been concentrating on governance issues at the county level. Things are detached, you know, like this county does its own thing, the other one does its own thing, and then Nairobi brings everybody on board without a proper alignment, without a proper coordination, and actually networking of those arms that are doing different things. So what we are saying, apart from just the county government, county governments working on the governance issues, they should actually even enroot some of these things. So vices like peace issues, conflict issues, gender-based violence, all those things, we should actually come out as a community, not as an organization. The organization can help in fundraising, you know, going to get funds for a specific day, like these 16 days of gender-based violence, a day to train maybe the police officers, maybe something to do with in putting up a toll number where people can call, but they cannot do community policing. Community policing has to be a holistic approach that comes from actually comes from the grassroots. So once the grassroots can alight, they can call then the police officers will be alert. Then the next stage will go. Then the next stage will go. So if you go to a police station and you find everybody, including the men, are able to handle gender-based violence issues, and it is not just a small desk that is at the corner, I think we will be able to.
Okay. I know that the objective of this campaign, one is to create awareness, or rather to raise awareness about the different forms of this gender-based violence. We also know that is to mobilize individuals and communities and government as well to take action against gender-based violence. We also know that is to advocate for policy changes and the strengthening of legal frameworks to protect victims and prevent violence. Also to highlight the connection between violence and other human rights violations. Probably as per you, are we really meeting? How do we ensure that we meet all this? How? Maybe.
You talked about violence, and what was the other thing that
okay, probably how do we end? That is my question.
Oh yes,
probably
strategies.
How do we end? Yeah. What are the strategies?
I think I was here like a few weeks ago, a few days ago, because of these 16 days. I talked briefly about what strategies we can use as a country to overcome gender-based violence. I think from the verbal perspective, we can actually train our young teenage girls and even middle-level girls and even married women that immediately somebody abuses or says a negative thing about you, you should be able to catch it and say, what have you just said? Was that meant for me? So that it is clear. Then if you don't agree with it, the person knows that you don't. Then if you totally feel that both of you cannot be on the same line because of the way the person either talks to you or the way they say things, you can part ways. There are options.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
There are options. So you don't have to wait and die in that relationship. You don't have to wait and deteriorate in the relationship. The best that you can do is to love yourself and get out of something if it is not working. From an Islamic perspective, we have that option. From the other perspectives, I think there is an because we have been working with many women, and women are always told, identify the verbal clues that are negative. If it cannot be retrieved and the person cannot bring it back and say, okay, I apologize for that, because people live together, me and you can sit here and we can disagree on something.
Yeah.
If we always have to, you know, people, brothers and sisters fight, men and, you know, people who love each other the most fight. So if the person can apologize, it is okay. Then next time they will not do the same thing. And if they do, then you have a way of sorting out those issues. But if the person is consistently doing the same thing, then you have an option. Either to get out of that relationship, if it's a short-term relationship, if it is a marriage relationship, you can still have an option. We have an option of divorce even in Islam.
Yeah.
You don't have to sit and wait and die just because you don't want to go back home. And actually in Islamic religion, people are accepted. God forbid, but if you are divorced today, your parents, your brothers, your people will be able to support you. And they will be able to reach you. And that is what we are saying for all the Kenyan girls. You are not coming from the sky. You're not dropping from the moon. If a relationship is not working, you don't have to die in that relationship. You don't have to get somebody's money, and you don't have to get somebody's kid for you to prove to be a woman. If it is not working, it is not working. There's 100 other ways of resolving conflict. You can go for psychological counseling. You can go for therapy. You can go to your nearest religious person. For example, if you're a Muslim woman, we have always been given ways of not getting out of our relationship. Are we together, Marianne?
Yeah.
So if it is not working, if it has gone through all those stages and you are definite and you know deep down, because at the end of the day, one thing I know, Marianne, you know, some of these things we talk about even in the organizational level, at the global level, it comes to the person. If deep down you know there's something you cannot live with, you say it out. If it is not respected, you hate it. Every time that you meet that person, you say, no, I don't think I am in a right position here. Then if it is not, then you get out of it. There is everything has stages.
Yeah.
So what we are telling ourselves and we are telling other women and we are reminding ourselves that we don't have to sit in relationship and die, and we don't have to eat people's money, and we don't have to have a big iPhone or to buy to get a big car if you cannot afford it. Why should you die in a B&B or be killed in a place just because you really have to be in that relationship? Yeah? If the worst goes to the worst, there are open places, there are restaurants. Sit with somebody. The first day, go out with them. If your sixth sense tells you this person is not right for you, then what do?
Just
You
forget
disappear.
about this person. Yeah,
Yeah?
disappear.
You don't have to wait for 16 days to come and rescue you because it might be too late. You get the point. That is why we
Yeah.
are saying it starts from the individual, then to the community or the village, then to the organizational level, then to the and then the globe. So if there are things that you want to write about, to share with other women, your experiences, you can write, you share during the 16 days of conversations and dialogue. Other women can learn from your experiences.
Okay.
But we don't have to come and pick you or to pick myself. So I remind myself and I remind other Muslim women that we have options in these things. And divorce is not a death. You might even get somebody who was really your soulmate when you leave this one and you get to the next one. You get the point?
Yeah.
But also we are not encouraging women
To
to
get divorced.
live relationships like that. Because
Okay,
Allah tells us even in the Quran, who are the most loved people that Allah loves? It is the patient. Isn't that not the patient? So these women who are raising up children who are pilots, even in single marriages, it's because of patience. So even you, if you see this man is not, like, he cannot hit you, he is not abusing you, it is only that he doesn't have the money to give you what you really want. You know, to go to the best mall in Westgate that I really like, or to go to Yahya Center. If he cannot afford that, but he is not beating you, he is not abusing you, he is not psychologically torturing you, he is not putting the pictures that you have sent to him as your wife on social media, then what do? You persevere and become patient. Maybe God will open a way for him to get money to feed you properly. So the other thing I also want to tell other women in our forum, and especially in this particular discussion, is that patience is very good. We don't have to have girls who are 15 years, 16 years marrying today, tomorrow, you know, and then you wonder, you have like 5 children? Yes, it is accepted in Islam and we congratulate you, but if it was not urgent, you don't have to have 5 kids with different fathers. Is that not the right thing to do? But if there is an abuse, even you can have 10. There is no way in the religion it has said you cannot marry 10 men. Is there a place where you have been told, ukifikisha 30, don't marry? No. Yes. So if you have not found your soulmate, you have not found somebody who has really taken care of you, you have been struggling from day one, you don't have to be in that relationship. You have been patient, you have asked Allah for guidance, you have done your right things, you have taken part of your, you know, even some of the things that you have sold to bring food to the table, but it's still not working. There is a way that if you pray and become patient, Allah will give you somebody else. Yeah? And they don't have even the best of the Prophet's friends was not a person from his own. For example, me, I'm a Somali. You are you are what? Nubi.
No.
Okay, Nubi. You don't have to look for a Nubi. Is that not right, Marianne?
Yeah, we kind of we tend to like our mental. Mentally, we know that is what is happening right now. So we find that so many parents, I'm a Somali, I want a Somali.
Yes.
I'm a Borana, I want a Borana. That is what is happening in the community right now.
Okay, the Prophet said, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he said, the best of your creatures are not out because of the white person is the best, the black one is the worst, the red one is a different one. What is it called? He did not say the best ones are the ones with different colors, with soft hair, with an maybe sharp nose like mine or something like that. But what we are saying,
the good character.
The best among you is the one with the best values. And what are the best values? It's patience, it's honesty, it's trustworthiness. But now look at today's community where we are. Left, right, and center, we are doing all sorts of things. Actually, instead of even being role models, we are even the worst. Because people are asking, which type of Muslims? We used to see Muslims who are, you know, even when you go to Kibra, you will find the Muslims are the ones giving people food. They are cooking nice food. What happened to you people as a generation? Even the same thing. You get the point?
Yeah.
So what you are saying, for these 16 days of gender-based violence against women and children, I can advocate maybe for 5 strategies. The first one is outreach. Sensitization, community dialogues, community conversations, actually having a holistic approach where every Kenyan is alert, whether he's a mother, whether he's a daughter-in-law, whether he's a child, any person, whether he's a male or female, people are aware and stand by. That is the only way the culprits, who are few even, they are not many, they are very few. So that is how those culprits will, just being sensitive. When you see something, you report. And then the second one is, if we have a toll number in Kenya, I don't know if we do. Are you aware of a toll number where you can call if you have a problem? Yeah, so I think our security agents should be, if they have the toll number, then they should use outreach ways so that people can know that number, so that in case somebody has a problem, they can be reached. And then the third way is also training of trainers. Our police officers should be retrained and trained fully, so that we don't have only a small desk in those police officers where somebody is overwhelmed, maybe mtu ameletwa, mwingine has killed, mwingine has done what, so anashindwa, huyu sasa amepigana na mzee wake, what kind of a case is this? They underrate that case. So tukue tuna a holistic approach whereby any officer, whether he's a female or male, can do what? Can actually support those families. They even try to help them in therapy and counseling, even within those police stations, so that people can get together. Because for us, we don't celebrate when people are partying, but when people are coming together and creating better relationship, healthier communities and healthier lifestyles, we are all happy, because it will impact on us.
Unfortunately, our time is up. We don't have much time, but at least we've seen something, or rather we've gotten something out of this topic of today. And I'm really glad that you chose to come here today to put more insight on this topic and educate educate our viewers on this. We know that 16 days of activism serves as a critical reminder of the need for global solidarity, like Basra has said here, and a sustained efforts in order to eliminate gender-based violence. It's called for action, not the root causes of violence, and create a world where everyone can live free from harm.
Zamzam, one thing I just wanted to bring to your attention before we close the show is that at the end of the day, we need to have that holistic approach. Secondly, we cannot have a community that is empowered if, for example, each one of us is talking in cross purposes. We all have to have the same role models. And the most important item, which I think I keep on forgetting and I wanted to bring to your attention, is the issue of, there's a lot of things going on around the world. We have political differences. We have climate change. You have seen what has happened in Spain, in Valencia. People have just died. You saw what happened in the US the other day with all the storms and all that. So this climate change is affecting a lot of countries. So even the funding that used to come to these African countries is becoming minimal. And then you have seen the wars in Ukraine, in Gaza and all that. In one way or another, it is economically affecting even our own economies as a country. So what Kenyans need to do is to actually look at ways in which they can fund these processes from their community levels and be more proactive than waiting for an NGO money to be brought so that an activity can be done. Yeah, because
so
I think in the next 1 or 2 years,
to the government also. And that was it for the night. I hope that you have learned something on what we are discussing here. It requires solidarity. It requires also efforts in order to eliminate this gender-based violence. Let's meet tomorrow for the Muslim Insight. I was standing in for Faisal Kasim. My name is Zamzam Ahmed.
Jazakallah.
Horizon TV, the beacon for the nation.